There are three major reasons why Africa is underdeveloped: corruption, poor leadership, and illicit financial outflows out of the continent. Corruption is a problem that Africa must fight. If you must tackle poverty, you must first fight corruption. And beyond that, if you also must develop, you must have leaders who are willing to put their political differences aside and focus on building the economy. You see, the West have built their industrial complexes around Africa's resources, around Africa's raw material. Africa cannot develop if we continue to export our raw materials. Let me tell you, who will believe that Cote d'Ivoire, Nigeria, Cameroon, and Ghana are the 4 largest cocoa producers in the world? And these 4 countries that I have mentioned, they make approximately about $7 to $8 billion every year from exporting cocoa beans. Then Germany, Switzerland, and Belgium, as the 3 highest manufacturers of chocolate in Europe, make about 50 billion every year out of chocolate. United States make nearly 30 billion out of chocolate every year. So my question now to African leaders is simple. When will a company based in Cote d'Ivoire, when will a company based in Ghana, when will a company based in Nigeria sell 3 million, 30 million, 300 million bars of chocolate in a year? If I am advising the government of Cote d'Ivoire, I will say to the government, why don't we get one of these chocolate manufacturing companies, give them a 10-year tax break, mandate them to build their company factory in Abidjan, in Cote d'Ivoire, so that from Cote d'Ivoire, they will sell at least 300 million bars of chocolate in a year. So I look at this thing and then I can tell you that the second major reason why Africa is underdeveloped is bad leadership. Now, look at Nigeria, for instance, a senior ranking member of OPEC, the 6th largest oil producing nation in the world. And Nigeria is the largest importer of pre-MS. How does that make sense? Look at Kenya. Kenya makes nearly between 15 and 16 million US dollars every year from their mineral resources that is shipped majorly to Hong Kong. But I can tell you from statistics from our last survey, our visit in Kenya, which was in 2016, 2 years ago, if the government of Kenya invests in mining and refining of most of their precious stones, that economy will make nearly 8 billion every year. Can you compare 16 million to 8 billion yearly? Can you now imagine what $8 billion in a year will do to Kenyan economy as they are on the right path to success as it is today? So what I think is the second major problem while Africa is underdeveloped is poor leadership, because we have failed to realize that exporting commodity out of Africa is what we have done for 600 years, and we are still the poorest of the poor. So I think that the leaders in Africa need to rethink this commodity export. It has never developed any country, it has never developed any continent, and it will not develop Africa. And then my last point on why Africa is underdeveloped is illicit financial outflows. The world woke up to the Thabo Mbeki-led committee on illicit financial outflows, and they realized all of a sudden that Africa loses nearly 50 billion every year to illicit financial outflows out of the continent. But I can tell you that ever since that report came out, from what we have gathered, that it is nearly 80 billion US dollars every year that Africa loses to illicit financial outflows. Imagine if Africa invests 80 billion every year into infrastructure. The 30 years infrastructural deficit in Africa will not be where it is today. So, you see, and then when I hear the word talk about corruption in Africa, illicit financial outflows, and there is no much cooperation coming to support Africa in fighting illicit financial outflows out of the continent, it pains me, because statistically, and this is true, what Africa gets in AIDS every year is just like 1% of what Africa loses every year to illicit financial outflows. So for me, based on our understanding and solid statistics, 3 reasons are why Africa is underdeveloped: corruption, poor leadership, and illicit financial outflows out of the continent. Thank you.